Good morning. Happy Monday. I have Jessica here from the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. We are here because the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad's in a little bit of a predicament, right? Is that what we could call it?
You could call it that.
So let's first really quickly mention what the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad is in case folks don't know.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about it?
The Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we offer authentic steam-powered train excursions.
Make sure you're talking right into your mic.
Sure.
There you go.
We offer steam-powered train excursions along the Tillamook Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And
from Garibaldi to Wheeler, right? Ish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, yes. And we have run steam excursions up into Salmonberry before 2015, that storm that we all loved.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. That was
so, yeah, and it's a huge draw. I know in the summertime when I drive through Rockaway, usually that's where I see the train is in Rockaway. Tons of people are on it. There are local schools that take field trips on it. You're having dinner trains. Is that currently a program?
Yep.
The dinner trains?
Yep.
Mother's Day trains, sunset trains. I mean, there's all kinds of
Valentine's, Father's Day.
Yeah, the train, the Polar Express in the wintertime. Or is that what you call it?
Candy Cane.
Candy Cane Express. Thank you.
Candy Cane Express.
I knew it was something.
That's a lot of fun.
Yes, and that runs like mostly the whole month up until Christmas, right? Like 3 or 4 weekends.
On the weekends, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty big, I think, draw for people. It's fun. It's an easy way to, if you're staying in Garibaldi and you maybe don't want to drive into Rockaway, you can take the train if you're visiting. Especially
for 4th of July, the traffic can be a nightmare. So people love to take the train. And that excursion we do sell out every year. But, last year we did 30,000 riders, which was a huge jump from the 22,000 we did the year before.
Wow. Yeah.
So I hear that's a good problem to have, but it was... it was a big impact for us at the time. So
for sure. So, speaking of problems, you're facing an interesting problem now.
Yes.
Because the Salmonberry Trail,
intergovernmental agency.
Yes, but I mean the Salmonberry Trail was supposed to be a rails to trails type of thing where the trail is supposed to run next to the train.
Rails with trails.
Or rails with trails. Thank you. I know the terminology sometimes gets me. But the Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency, which is also we'll refer to as STIA, because I think we've referred that when other people have come in and talked about it, we talk about STIA a lot. They are something has to be signed next Monday, right?
This Friday.
Or a lease.
Yes, this Friday.
Okay.
As of January 16th, the Port of Tillamook Bay, who we lease the section of right-of-way from that we operate, the Port of Tillamook Bay voted and approved to move forward with an incomplete lease. So they're still working on it, yet they voted to approve it. So technically it's not signed. However, they voted to approve a proposed lease on the 16th, and the 2nd of February in Salem at our Capitol, room 50 at 10 a.m.
I'm sure you will be there.
The STIA board will call for a vote as well, and we are told they have promised to sign it. And at that point, then things are set. And mind you, it's still not complete, and it won't be complete. So I'm not sure if they're going to sign something or not. That would be unheard of. But they are still presently calling for a vote.
So what does the signing of the lease mean for the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad?
Well...
Or you're not really, not really sure, right?
No,
is that what I understand?
Well, no, we know.
Okay.
I have the proposed lease here with me. And what it essentially is doing is...
She's pulling it all out.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah, it's...
It has a section here. Yes, it has a section here, Section D. And D3 through 6 discusses existing use agreements, new lease agreements, and the right to object to both.
And we should say, or let me ask, is the lease is for just your portion, or is it for the entire?
It's a 99-year lease for the entire right-of-way.
And that's understandable.
Right.
But while that lease may be fine for 75% of it, whatever the railway is, the 25% that affect you, it doesn't seem like it's such a great idea.
We actually lease more than 50% of the right-of-way.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But we're not the only ones who have a use agreement. Fiber optic lines, utilities, sewer,
so this is going to affect
water.
All of these things?
It could affect all of these.
Could affect, right.
Yes, it is not specific. It's not specifically targeted toward us, though,
right.
on paper, though it is specifically targeted toward us. Because a few members of STIA who were involved in writing this agreement would like to see us out of business so they can rip up the rails and build a rail 2 trail. So there would be no train tracks adjacent to a trail. A rail with trail would be both.
Right, with together.
Right, right.
So can we back up for a second? Because can we talk about what agencies and organizations are a part of STIA?
Sure. We have 4 voting members, if you want to call them. And that would be the Oregon Department of Forestry, Oregon Parks and Recreation. We would have obviously the Port of Tillamook Bay. And we would have what is the third one? Oh, the 1, 2. Oh, I can't remember the fourth one now. That's voting. Oh, no. So we have 4 voting. We have 4
It's a long
voting.
list of people you have there. I see it.
Well, there's a bunch of ex officios who are not voting members,
But they're a part of
the
group.
And the other 4th one would be, I believe, the Regional Solutions, the governor's office. And then we have all the ex officio members who are who weigh in, sit on the board, but don't vote.
Okay, and those are from what agencies or organizations?
We have our county commissioner, Bill Bartline, Washington County Commissioner. We have the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde. We have the Washington County Visitors Association. We have the Tillamook Forest Heritage Trust. State Representative Debbie Boone. We have the State Senator Betsy Johnson. She may be a voting member. She may be the fourth. No, I don't think so. It's going to be a state agency. So, yeah. So we have all of these members who make up STIA, and then we have subcommittee and supporting or advising committees that are obviously not voting.
So, I mean, I hear the groups that are a part of that, and some are here and some are not. And Washington County is involved because at some point that is intended to connect to the banks of Nonia Trail, right? So, or it's going to be the trail will be into Washington
County,
right?
And unfortunately, Washington County does not have a representative that is a voting member, which is kind of interesting, but
because they'll be affected. But of the people that will be voting on Friday, are any of them from Tillamook County, or are those all
the Port of Tillamook Bay?
Okay,
and which is kind of strange. I'm not sure how that's supposed to go since it's a lease between the Port of Tillamook Bay and STIA. So we'll have to see about that. But then the 4 state agencies will vote, and they'll probably call a consensus with everyone. And I would assume they would at least get a consensus in executive session to then come out and vote.
Kind of confer with the rest of the group of where everybody else feels. Is that what you are meaning? Yeah,
and interestingly enough, this has all been done in executive session on both sides, STIA and the Port of Tillamook Bay. And And at the same time that they're negotiating this lease, the Port of Tillamook Bay has entered into renegotiations of our lease, and both leases, ours and theirs, reference each other's. So, really this should all be done at the same time, above table, with everyone in the room, with transparency, and unfortunately has not happened that way. So about a week ago, we requested to see the lease again, and they finally agreed to give it to us, and that's when we said, "Uh-oh."
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, there's a big problem, because we heard that there was a problem when we were in one of our negotiation meetings on January 19th. That's when we were told that they had voted and approved this lease, the Port of Tillamook Bay. And we were also told that in this, STIA would have the right to object. And we pressed them about what that really means and how far legally could they take that.
Right.
We were told that since the Port of Tillamook Bay sits on the STIA lease and it has to come to a consensus, they would just object and everything would be fine. But that's not how it goes in this lease.
That's not how it's actually written.
No, not at all.
Okay. I need to take a quick break, and then can we talk about the specific parts of the lease that are concerning to you? Are you ready to go to work? Tillamook Motor Company has huge discounts on commercial vans, plus 0% financing for up to 72 months. Ford Transit vans stand head and shoulders above the competition. Configure the cargo doors to suit your job with a cargo box floor that is flat with near vertical sides for maximum usable space. Choose from a wide range of products designed to suit different trades: cargo dividers, multi-racks, bulkheads, and sliding platforms. Use your imagination to create one hardworking vehicle designed with you in mind. Take a test drive today at Tillamook Motor Company on the friendly corner of 5th and Main in downtown Tillamook. Tillamook Motor Company, a better place to do business. So this morning we're talking with Jessica, who's the manager of the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, which is a lovely train that you see going back and forth between Garibaldi and Wheeler, especially in the summer. Not so much right now, right? I mean, other than the special excursions, do you have weekend excursions still?
Just the special excursions.
Just the special ones. And then during the summertime, it's like
and
all the
spring
time.
Break. Spring
break.
break.
Yeah, spring break.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a pending lease agreement that is supposed to be voted on Friday in regards to the Salmonberry Trail and how that's going to work with the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad. So let's talk about a little bit of what in the lease is concerning you and what that means to the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad.
Okay. So in the lease, and again, it's not just the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad that is potentially affected, but it's every existing or any new lease that the Port of Tillamook Bay would want to enter into.
Which, like you mentioned before, was things like fiber optic cable, electrical.
Utilities, such as sewer, water. And there's, city public parking, roads, crossings, private driveway crossings. There's encroachments of small businesses and homes, and these are all going to be affected by what is in the lease.
Okay.
Essentially, what the Port of Tillamook Bay has approved is relinquishing all rights to their leases, current and any new leases that they would want to enter into.
Releasing the rights to who?
To the Trail Commission.
Okay, so the Salmonberry Trail.
Correct. Yep.
Intergovernmental agency.
Yes. And what it states in sections D3 through 6 is if STIA objects or doesn't like, basically, or believes that the existing lease or new lease that they would want to enter into are not in conformance to the concept plan, constitute trail use, negatively affects STIA's lease rights under this agreement, or impose a material negative impact on STIA's trail use, then they have the right to object.
So if they feel like any new or existing lease or whatever's coming in before they sign it, if they feel like it's going to impact the trail in any negative way, they have the right to object. Correct. Is that essentially layman's terms?
Yep, correct. And when they object, they do it in writing. And then they go to Section X, where we have 3 steps of action.
Mm-hmm.
They go to negotiation, where one member of STIA and one member of the Port of Tillamook Bay sit down and try to work it out and then get it in writing. Mm-hmm. So we can't move forward until something's in writing. Or let me put it this way. The Port of Tillamook Bay can't move forward with an amendment or negotiations of an extent of a existing lease, mm-hmm. and they can't move forward in entering into a new lease until they get it in writing between STIA and the Port of Tillamook Bay. Mm-hmm. So if negotiation doesn't work, then they go to step 2, which is mediation. Mm-hmm. They throw in a mediator, then they throw in a few more mediators if that doesn't work. And if they don't come to an agreement in writing, then they go to step 3, which is legal litigation. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that, there's 2 problems with that. Mm-hmm. With existing leases that they have objected to, gone to negotiation, gone to mediation, and go to legal action, the judge is going to say, well, it's kind of like the Port of Tillamook Bay tried to sell the same car twice. Mm-hmm. We entered into a lease agreement with the Port of Tillamook Bay back in 2012. And according to this new STIA lease, it says existing use agreements are subject to the terms of this agreement.
So it kind of converts them all over, regardless of what you agreed with in your lease. It kind of converts it over to the new lease automatically.
That's the language in here.
Right.
Yes, and that's a big problem. Now, mm-hmm. a really even bigger problem for any new lease that the Port of Tillamook Bay would want to enter into, the judge would then say, well, back in D6, it says STIA may object to a new lease agreement if STIA believes the new lease agreement fails to conform to the concept plan, constitutes trail use, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so the judge would then say, well, the Port of Tillamook Bay left it to the sole discretion of what STIA believes.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a scary word because that's very subjective.
It is very subjective.
Yeah, it's not clear or written out.
Right.
And because what I believe and what you believe could be completely different.
Completely different. Mm-hmm. And then what's really alarming to us at the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad is in the section F, construction, repair, operation, maintenance of trail, STIA may take all actions necessary, to construct, maintain, and repair the trail and any segment of the trail, including without limitations, installing the following related utilities and improvements. All of such improvements shall be considered part of the quote-unquote trail as the term is used herein. 1, trail surfaces, footbridges, and associated trail structures. 2, trail markers, signs, lights, benches, and other security enhancements. And 3, any barriers, fences, and gates necessary to prevent motorized vehicular access. And 4, any other improvements specifically approved in the concept plan. So they're handing over all actions necessary without limitations.
Right. Yeah, which, as you mentioned, could essentially mean the railroad gets ripped up, right? I mean,
that's exactly what they're coming for. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. But if I were a private landowner, adjacent landowner with public or private access, I would be worried about that. Because what if they decide to, in Rockaway Beach, as I was telling Shayna the other day, we have 22 crossings.
Oh, sure. I know. I'm thinking about it right now. I drive through there once a week.
Yeah.
And
those are access to people's homes and
other streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's big.
It is big.
It's really big. So what can people do if they are feeling passionate, or what would you request that people do? Even if this piques their interest, even in the slightest, what would you like them to do?
Well,
or what can they do?
It's our belief that all but one of the port commissioners did not understand the language. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they would have never approved it. Mm-hmm. It's opening themselves up to numerous lawsuits if STIA ever tries to object to existing lease.
Right.
And so
can I ask a question? Something I was thinking about. Your existing lease, is it like, does it get renewed every 5 years, every 10 years? Like what is the term?
Yeah, good question. The lease that we have now is set to renew in 4 years. It renews every 5 years.
Okay.
So in 4 years, if we are in for an auto renewal, they could potentially object it.
Gotcha.
However, we're trying to renegotiate this. So that would mean it would be considered a new lease, which they could object. So your question was, what would I...
Yeah, what can people do that are listening, or what would you implore people to do?
With the consideration that 4 out of 5 port members don't understand the language, we would request people to either email, call, or send a letter to the port pleading with them to consult with their legal team, talk with their legal team, find out exactly what this language means, and call for a revote before the 2nd of February.
Which is Friday.
Yeah.
We're under a timeline here.
Yep.
A very short
time
timeline.
is of the essence.
On your, I know there's a kind of a form letter that someone could copy and paste on your Facebook page, Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, that someone could, like I said, copy and paste into an email or a Word document and drop it off or email it over there. Yeah, it's a little scary. It is. I'm sure it makes your job a little stressful this week. It's going to be a long, stressful week for you.
Yes, it is stressful. Though I was able to get out and about with my son yesterday, which, we had to, of course, build a fort with sticks and moss and all of that stuff. But it was fun.
A little break fun. From the stress of things.
While I'm sneaking in emails on my cell phone. But it's stressful, and it's concerning that the commissioners, who are elected officials, by the way,
which are not the Tillamook County commissioners. The board commissioners are different.
Yes.
The
Port of Tillamook Bay commissioners.
And I didn't realize that there was a separate commissioner group for the port, because I saw the word commissioner and then I saw it in relation to the board, and I thought, oh, that's different. And then I looked it up, and that's a completely different group than the county commissioners.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're elected to protect the interests of the port, which are there to serve and protect Tillamook County.
Yeah.
So
real quick, let's talk again about the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad. I do feel like a lot of people know what it is, but there might be people around that are not aware. It's an old steam locomotive, right? Steam locomotive?
We have several steam locomotives, yes,
Yeah.
and vintage diesel locomotives, but we primarily operate the McLeod Railway number 25, which was in the movie Stand By Me. And then we have, this year we'll actually be debuting a few other locomotives, one of which is very famous. We call it Skookum, which most rail fans will know exactly what that is. But yeah.
So there's excursions. If you drive in the summertime up 101, you will most likely see one of the trains running.
Yes.
Garibaldi to Wheeler. And how many times a day does it run?
From Garibaldi to Rockaway Beach, it runs 3 times a day. And some weekends in June, July, and August, it'll run 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's every day in the summertime.
Every day, correct.
It's huge. It's a big thing.
It's
People
a big thing.
love... I kind of feel like I have friends that live in the valley and they come out, and I always see pictures when they're in Rockaway. They're always riding the train with their kids.
Yeah.
Local schools take field trips on the trains.
We do a lot of senior groups also, a lot of tour groups. We have, this year we'll be starting cruise ship tours coming from Astoria.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, including Disney Cruise.
Wow. So they're going to have a bus come down. That's really cool. There's dinner cruises, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, which, by the way, is Valentine's Day sold out?
I haven't checked. I should check.
If you is that the 10th? Will it be?
Yeah, it'll be on the 10th.
The weekend of.
Yes.
So that's kind of a cute idea if you're listening and you don't have Valentine's Day plans yet.
It's a very unique Valentine's
Yeah.
dinner. Yeah,
For sure.
It's
And maybe
a
we'll
lot
have
of
some
fun.
nice weather and you'll see a sunset.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
stars or something, or the moon. Yeah, I feel personally that the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad is a huge value to our community, not only
Yes.
in bringing in tourism dollars, but also allowing people to see, because it doesn't, yes, you see it on 101, but it also goes off, and there are parts where the railroad goes that you can't go with a car or
Correct.
a bike or, walking. And so you get a different perspective and view of our area and the bay.
Yes, and we also have the rail riders.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun, and an even more unique way, not more unique, it's a different way to experience the bay on the rails because it's so quiet and it's just completely different. But OCSR has always been supportive of a rail with trail. We go to the meetings, we offer our support, we offer our help to build. We offer using the railroad as sort of a lifeline. There's no cell service in the corridor. We could have emergency standby high rail vehicles.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You can't land a helicopter up there,
right? Right.
So
yeah,
we've always been supportive of it, and we
right.
would
You're
help
not
it in
trying
any
to
way.
stop the trail.
We're absolutely not
Right.
trying to stop the trail.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And if you are just tuning in or you missed out, we're talking about the Salmonberry Trail. And the lease agreement is potentially being voted on Friday that will affect the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, among other organizations, individuals, and businesses. One of the things that you mentioned real quick, I know we're about out of time, but you said, if the negotiations don't pan out and then mediation happens and then litigation happens, litigation is expensive, and a lot of small businesses and individuals, and I'm sure the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, it's not something that you can be super prepared for. And I mean, that could essentially put someone out of business, just the litigation, right? The legal fees.
It could absolutely put someone out of business.
Yeah,
Correct.
which would be a shame.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that a state or state agencies would use that tactic.
Right.
So
right. We are out of time, but again, if you are listening and you would like to send a note to the Port of Tillamook Bay, you can go on the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, and right on their front page on Facebook, they've got a nice little letter you can copy and paste and either put it into a Word document and mail it, or drop it off, or email it.
info@potb.org.
And do you know what their phone number is by any chance to call them?
No, but I could look it up.
Okay. And I also wanted to say, I think on Wednesday, Shayna's trying to coordinate an on-air live discussion between you and the port. Is that right? Is that what she was trying to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would
So
be
we'll
fun.
have more details as that comes up. Similar to what Adam Schwend and Aaron Scar did for the housing, the measure that was on the housing ballot,
And
or
just,
the tax.
just real quick,
Okay.
their address is 4000 Blimp Boulevard, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141, and their phone number is 503-842-2413.
And time is of the essence since the vote is happening
Friday
in Salem. It's
in
not
Salem,
happening here. So
at the Capitol, room 50. Now, I'm not sure how big room 50 is, but the more the merrier.
Okay. All right.
So perfect.
Hey, thanks for coming in. This was helpful. I had seen stuff about it yesterday, and I was reading, and it was a lot of legalese, so this was good to talk to you about this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow we'll have someone here from the Tillamook Chamber. Don't forget senior meals, 11:30 at St. Mary's by the Sea in Rockaway Beach every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also noon every weekday at the Kiawanda Community Center in Pacific City, as well as the Tillamook Senior Center at 4th and Stillwell. Cost is $3 for seniors and $6.75 for everyone else. Tomorrow night at the Chamber office, the TRA, the Tillamook Revitalization Association, is holding their annual meeting at 5:30. It is open to business owners. Wednesday, the annual Homeless Connect event is set to be held at Sacred Heart Gym with pet care from 10 to 5, dental care from noon to 5, and a variety of other services from 2 to 5. And on Friday, the NCRD is hosting Kevin Burke and Castletown for a winter concert from 7:30 to 9:30. Kevin is a Irish fiddle virtuoso returning from his Ireland tour, and Castletown is a high-energy fiddle, guitar, and drums band. Tickets are available at tickettomato.com or at the door. Jessica, thanks again for coming in this morning.
Thanks you for having me. Yep.
Yeah, and thank you, Tillamook, for listening.